Stop 15, Block 2. You are now on the trail back down St. Peter's Hill and visiting the last emplacement on our tour, Block 2. Stuka dive bombers attacked Block 2 soon after the assault began. Block 2 is located 200 meters north of the entrance, Block 1, and was situated at the head of the water-filled anti-tank ditch on the western flank. When you get to Block 2, you will see this water-filled anti-tank ditch below the blockhouse. It flows north to the Albert Canal. It was armed with two 60mm anti-tank weapons and 3 machine guns, as well as 2 searchlights and an armored observation dome on the top. The field of fire of Block 2 extended from the Albert Canal to the north and Block 1 to the south. It also covered the approaches to the fort from the village. The gun crew of Block 2 numbered 4 NCOs and 22 soldiers. At 6:30, Troop 3, after attacking Maastricht 1 up the hill, moved on to Block 2. They detonated a 50-kilogram charged weapon above the armored observation dome, killing the soldier inside. Block 2 also featured a sally port to allow personnel to counterattack from this position. Several Belgian counterattacks were mounted up the hillside to the right of Block 2. Major Jotran was shaken by the explosions and casement damage, and realized that only a few Germans were attacking the fort and ordered a counterattack to clear the top. A group of 14 men emerged from the woods in the northeast corner and immediately came under attack from Trooper Arnott. The Belgians quickly retreated. By 10:30, Major Jotran became furious and launched 2 additional counterattacks in an attempt to dislodge the Germans from the top of the fort. Both counterattacks met with failure due largely in part to their lack of infantry weapons and infantry tactics. Major Jotran began to fear a German penetration into Fort Eben Emael and ordered that all tunnels be blocked. He also called for an additional artillery fire from the neighboring points of Pontus and Barschon to target the top of Fort Eben Emael. In addition to these measures, he called his reserve force from the nearby town of Wonk. Lieutenant Levesque, in charge of the reserve force, left at 1:45 with 243 men and immediately came under heavy attack from Jus 87 Stukas. The constant dive bombing disrupted the reserve force's movement formations by scattering them throughout the countryside. By 4 o'clock, only 15 of the 233 men had reached the fort, and within the next few hours, roughly half of the original reserve was postured for a counterattack. As darkness fell, the Belgians found themselves under constant German machine gun fire, and only 8 men stayed with the assault. By 6:45, they were all within the safety of the fort walls. You can continue on the tour when you finish walking around Block 2. Take the road in the opposite direction of the anti-tank ditch. As you proceed back to Block 1 and the entrance, listen to the rest of the story. As darkness fell on Trooper Witzig's platoon, the men lay exhausted in a defensive position near Witzig's glider. The Germans set off demolition charges in the shafts of Maastricht 1, Meade Nord, and Meade Sud. Throughout the night, incoming artillery fire and explosions kept the Belgian defenders in a state of fear. The interior of the fort was in shambles. The constant explosions cut off the power to the majority of the fort, and the lack of ventilation and heat began to make work conditions unbearable in the underground fort. Smoke permeated every corner, reminding the defenders of their German adversaries above ground and threatening asphyxiation if the situation did not improve. At 8:30 on May 11, 1940, Trooper Witzig was officially relieved by members of the 151st Infantry Regiment. He buried his 6 dead and departed Fort Eben Emael. At 12:30 on May 11th, Fort Eben Emael was officially surrendered to Colonel Meltzer, commander of the 151st Infantry Regiment. A German colonel approached the assembled council of leaders and said, "I congratulate you on your courage. Someone must be defeated in war. I am sorry this must happen to you, but this is war. I must send you to Germany." The Belgian prisoners of Fort Eben Emael were kept in isolation until July to keep the use of gliders and hollow charges a secret. They were then transferred to a prisoner of war camp at Fallenbossen, Germany, and remained there for 5 years. The soldiers of Fort Eben Emael had held out for 36 hours, 700 men attacked by 62. The Belgians lost 23 brave soldiers and had 59 wounded. In comparison, Witzig's platoon suffered 6 killed and 15 wounded. Several days later, the platoon returned to its barracks at Hildesheim. It was ordered to report to a special ceremony. There, Adolf Hitler addressed the men and presented each officer with a Knight's Cross, Nazi Germany's highest combat decoration, and each soldier with an Iron Cross. Everyone involved was promoted 1 grade except Getzig, the drunken soldier who saddled the 120mm gun. Soon thereafter, the men received orders transferring them to other units, and within a few months, the platoon was deactivated. The platoon remained deactivated until early in 1941, when Hitler ordered an attack on the Greek island of Crete. Fort Eben Emael is just one of the forts and military museums that you can visit in the area. Under the Further Information tab on the website, you can find a brochure that you can download to find out more about other sites of the Liege areas that you can visit. There is much more to learn about the attack on Fort Eben Emael, and this walk has just given you the basic information. Much of this information was acquired from published material. Please check the Bibliography tab to find ordering information and web links to a variety of videos and books used in this presentation. Thank you for participating in this multimedia walk on the top of Fort Eben Emael. There is an excellent restaurant next to the parking lot that makes an excellent rest area. If you have found this walk interesting, visit our website to see other military historic walks. If you have ideas for future walks, feel free to contact me. I am always looking for others who might be interested in producing materials. Again, a special thanks to all the volunteers that work so hard to keep this historic site open to the public.